Have you ever noticed how the strongest enemy you face is not out there in the world, but inside your own head? Think about it. The battles you lose most often aren't the ones against other people, other companies, or even against circumstances. The battles you lose are the ones against yourself. You've had days where you knew exactly what you should have done. Maybe it was getting up early to hit the gym. Maybe it was finishing that business plan. Maybe it was simply sending an email that could have opened a door. You knew it, you felt it, yet you didn't do it. And afterwards, what did you feel? Anger, frustration, a strange mix of regret and shame. That's self-betrayal. And it is the single most dangerous disease of the modern man. Now here's the truth. The human mind is the most powerful weapon ever created. It can build empires, or it can destroy lives. It can make you fearless, or it can make you a slave. And the worst part, most people have handed their mind over to weakness, distraction, and comfort. They have surrendered the only tool that could free them. So let me begin with a promise. If you learn to master your mind, you can master your life. Every ounce of discipline, wealth, power, strength, happiness, respect, and freedom you want starts in one place, your own head. Imagine this for a moment. What if I told you that right now, this very second, your mind is plotting against you? Not an enemy across the street, not a rival on the internet, not your boss, your government, or your critics. Your own mind. Your mind whispers, take it easy today. You've done enough. Maybe tomorrow. It's okay to skip this one time. And you listen. And by listening, you betray yourself. Think of betrayal in war. When an ally switches sides, it's devastating. The enemy becomes twice as powerful because now they have someone who knows your weaknesses. That's exactly what happens when your mind betrays you. You've handed the enemy a map to your vulnerabilities. This is why so many people feel stuck. They sabotage their own potential before the world even gets a chance to test them. They fall without even entering the battlefield. Human beings used to know how to use the mind. Before the endless noise of social media, before the constant bombardment of distractions, imagination was a daily practice. We would close our eyes and see the life we wanted. Not in vague shapes, not in blurred outlines, but in vivid details, so real you could taste it, smell it, and touch it. But look around today. People can't even focus long enough to read a page, let alone hold a vision of their future. They are prisoners of scrolling, trapped in cycles of distraction. Their imagination is dead, suffocated under memes, meaningless chatter, and empty entertainment. Yet champions, true champions, always begin in the mind. Ask any fighter, any athlete, any billionaire entrepreneur. They saw the victory before it happened. They felt the glory before they earned it. And because they felt it so strongly, they became obsessed. And because they became obsessed, they acted with relentless energy. Visualization is not fantasy. It's training. It's mental rehearsal. And like any skill, if you neglect it, it fades. Let me ask you directly, how many times have you doubted yourself? How many times have you delayed action until the opportunity passed? How many times have you justified laziness with excuses like, I'm tired, or I deserve a break, or maybe later? Be honest. These are not accidents. These are betrayals. Your own mind tricked you. And because of that, you lost not to your rivals, not to the so-called matrix, not to bad luck. You lost to yourself. And here's the harsh reality. If you cannot defeat yourself, you cannot defeat anyone else. The man who has not mastered his own thoughts will never master his environment. So what's the first decision you must make? It's simple. Your mind must be your ally, not your enemy. Once you have your mind on your side, you will be unstoppable. Once your thoughts, emotions, and willpower march together, then and only then can you form alliances outside. Only then can you build teams, create networks, expand into empires. But it starts within, always. Here's a challenge for you. After this, I want you to stand in front of a mirror, look yourself in the eyes, not a quick glance, a long, uncomfortable stare, and ask, do I deserve to be happy? Do I deserve success? Most of you won't like the answer. Because deep down, you know you've betrayed yourself too many times. You've skipped too many workouts. You've wasted too many hours. You've hidden from too many responsibilities. That's why you feel restless. That's why you feel empty. Because you don't trust yourself anymore. But here's the good news. You can change it today. Trust can be rebuilt. And once you rebuild trust with your own mind, the world becomes yours. This path is not easy. It's not supposed to be. Mastering your mind is war. It's daily combat. Every morning you wake up and you choose betrayal or loyalty, weakness or strength, excuses or execution. And let me tell you something brutal but true. The world is already full of people waiting to destroy you for their own self-interest. If I offered the average man $100 million to press a button that killed you, almost all of them would press it without hesitation. That's how the world works. That's how selfish people are. So why, in the middle of a battlefield where everyone is ready to exploit you, would you allow your own mind to join their side? That's insanity. You need every ally you can get. You need every ounce of strength. And your mind, the thing you control completely, is the one ally you cannot afford to lose. So here is the law of life, the rule you must etch into your soul. Never betray yourself. No matter how tired, no matter how discouraged, no matter how tempting the excuse, your mind must never turn against you. If your body fails, so be it. If your environment is hostile, endure it. But your mind must remain loyal, sharp, relentless, because when the dust settles, when the enemies fall, when the obstacles collapse, it is the man who refused to betray himself that stands victorious. And that, right there, is where our journey begins. Close your eyes for a moment and ask yourself this. When was the last time you truly imagined? I'm not talking about daydreaming while scrolling through your phone or briefly picturing yourself driving a sports car before you snap back to reality. I mean a deep, powerful, vivid imagination where your entire body reacts as if the vision were real. Goosebumps on your arms, fire in your chest, the taste of victory on your tongue even though nothing has happened yet. When was the last time you felt that? For most people, the answer is simple: never. And that is the tragedy of the modern world. Our ancestors built civilizations on imagination. Every invention, every discovery, every empire was born in the mind before it ever touched the ground. But today, imagination is a dying art. Social media has stolen it from you. Constant distraction has killed it. People can binge 10 hours of meaningless videos but cannot spend 10 minutes building a vision of the life they want. And if you cannot see the life you want in your mind, how will you ever create it in reality? The truth is this: your imagination is a preview of your destiny. The greatest champions in every field, fighters, entrepreneurs, leaders, athletes, all understood this. They visualized their success long before it arrived. They didn't just think about it casually. They lived it inside their heads. They walked through it, felt it, trained for it as though it had already happened. This is why visualization is not fantasy, it is training. When a boxer enters the ring, he has already fought the fight 1,000 times in his mind. He knows how victory feels. He has tasted it. That is why his punches carry conviction. That is why his body obeys under pressure. Because the body follows the mind. The mind leads, the body obeys. If the mind is weak, the body collapses. If the mind is strong, the body finds a way. Most of you have no control over your imagination. You've forgotten how to use it. You close your eyes and nothing comes. Or worse, when you do imagine, you picture failure. You see yourself being rejected, embarrassed, humiliated. You create fear instead of victory. And then you wonder why you hesitate in life. You wonder why you are paralyzed when opportunity arrives. The answer is simple. You rehearsed failure in your head so many times that your body believed it. Let me ask you a question. Do you think Michael Jordan imagined himself missing the game-winning shot? Do you think Muhammad Ali visualized himself lying on the canvas knocked out? Do you think Steve Jobs pictured himself bankrupt and forgotten? Number. They saw themselves winning, and they saw it every single day until the vision hardened into reality. That is the power you've allowed to rot inside you. That is the weapon you refuse to use. Instead of crafting your future with imagination, you let the internet do the imagining for you. Memes, videos, gossip, other people's thoughts fill your mind while your own vision remains empty. This is why you feel lost. You are living inside someone else's imagination instead of your own. But here's the secret. Imagination can be trained. Just like muscles grow in the gym, your imagination grows when you practice it. Sit down in silence. Close your eyes. Picture yourself 5 years from now. Not a vague blur details. What does your house smell like? What car do you step into? What watch is on your wrist? What's the sound of the room when you enter? Can you hear the respect in the silence? Can you feel the weight of power when you speak? Make it real. Make it so vivid that your body doesn't know the difference between vision and reality. When you master this, something incredible happens. The vision becomes a hunger. The hunger becomes obsession. And obsession forces action. You won't need motivation from YouTube videos anymore because your own mind will drive you forward. Every second away from your dream will feel like torture. And that pain will fuel your work until you close the gap between vision and reality. Understand this. Imagination is not just a gift, it's a responsibility. If you refuse to imagine, you are choosing to stay where you are. You are deciding to live a life designed by others. The rich, the powerful, the elite, they imagined their empires long before they built them. If you fail to do the same, you will simply become a pawn in their vision. There are two kinds of men in this world, those who imagine and those who obey. The ones who imagine command the world, and the ones who refuse to imagine are condemned to serve. Which one are you? If you truly want to change your life, start with imagination. Don't underestimate it. Don't brush it off as childish or silly. The richest men alive use vision boards, affirmations, mental rehearsals, not because they're weak, but because they understand the law of the universe. The mind creates first, reality follows after. Every time you allow yourself to imagine vividly, you are planting seeds in your subconscious. Those seeds grow into thoughts. Those thoughts grow into habits. Those habits grow into results. And those results become your destiny. All of it starts inside your head. So tonight, when the noise of the world quiets down, sit in silence. Close your eyes. Force yourself to imagine the life you truly want. Don't allow vague pictures. Be ruthless with your details. The more detailed, the more powerful. If your vision doesn't make your pulse quicken, it isn't strong enough. If your imagination doesn't bring you goosebumps, you are still being weak. Push deeper. Train it harder. And when you open your eyes, you will realize something powerful. The life you want is no longer a dream, it's a responsibility. Once you've seen it, you can't go back. You can't ignore it. You must chase it. And that hunger, that fire will be your greatest weapon. The weak man lives without vision. The strong man sees his victory before the first step. And the strongest man is the one who not only sees it, but refuses to rest until he holds it in his hands. So remember this law. If you can imagine it, you can build it. If you refuse to imagine it, you'll spend your life building someone else's dream. There is a silent assassin inside every man, and it strikes far more often than any external enemy ever could. That assassin is self-betrayal. Most men are not destroyed by competitors, governments, or rivals. They are destroyed by their own weakness, their own hesitation, and their own lack of discipline. Think back over your life. Count the number of times you failed. How many of those failures were truly because of someone else? How many were the result of a stronger rival, a corrupt system, or unfair circumstances? And how many were because you didn't do what you knew you should? If you are honest, you'll realize the vast majority of your failures were self-inflicted. You told yourself you would get up early, but you stayed in bed. You promised yourself you would go to the gym, but you skipped it. You said you'd start the business, but you procrastinated. You betrayed yourself. And betrayal always hurts more when it comes from the inside. The tragedy is that people don't even see it. They live in denial. They blame others. They say the world is unfair, the market is bad, the system is rigged, their parents didn't support them, their friends didn't help. Excuses pile up like bricks, and those bricks build the prison they live in. But here's the raw truth. It wasn't them. It was you. Your own mind turned against you. The man who betrays himself cannot be trusted by anyone else. If you cannot rely on yourself to keep your word, why should the world give you opportunities? Why should allies fight beside you if you don't even fight beside yourself? Self-betrayal makes you weak, and the weak are not respected. What does self-betrayal look like? It looks like procrastination. You know what needs to be done, yet you wait. It looks like laziness. You say you'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. It looks like excuses. You convince yourself the timing isn't right, the conditions aren't perfect, or you don't feel ready. And each time you let yourself get away with these lies, you chip away at your own strength. This is why so many men are miserable. Not because they don't have money, not because life is unfair, but because deep down, they don't respect themselves. And how can you respect yourself when you betray yourself every single day? Let me tell you something about enemies. Real enemies, powerful enemies, are rare. Most of you are not even important enough to have serious enemies. The man across the street doesn't care about you. The government doesn't know your name. Your rivals barely notice you. You are not being held down by conspiracies or attacks. You are being held down by your own betrayal. You are fighting shadows in your head, while your real opponent, the weakness inside, keeps beating you. Understand this. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you are stabbing yourself in the back. Every time you pick the easy road instead of the hard one, you are handing victory to your enemies without fight. Every time you delay, you are not only wasting time, you are proving to yourself that you cannot be trusted. And this self-betrayal is addictive. Once you accept it once, it becomes easier the second time. Skip the gym today, and skipping tomorrow feels normal. Avoid the hard conversation now, and avoiding every challenge becomes routine. Slowly, without realizing, you become the man who cannot rely on himself. And that is the lowest form of existence. The worst part? Self-betrayal feels safe in the moment. When you skip the workout, when you put off the project, when you say I'll do it later, you feel relief. You avoid discomfort. But that comfort is poison, because comfort today is regret tomorrow. The pain of discipline weighs ounces, but the pain of betrayal weighs tons. Look around at the losers of the world, the men who never achieve anything, the ones who complain, who envy, who criticize. Every single one of them is a man who betrayed himself too many times. Their failure is not because of enemies. It is not because of fate. It is because they were traitors to their own potential. If you want to change your life, the first war you must win is the war against self-betrayal. Stop lying to yourself. Stop accepting weakness. Stop negotiating with your own excuses. Your mind should be your greatest ally, not your executioner. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly kept your own word? When was the last time you promised yourself something and followed through no matter what? If you can't remember, then you know where your misery comes from. Respect is built on loyalty, and loyalty starts with yourself. The man who never betrays himself is unstoppable. He doesn't need motivation because he trusts himself. He doesn't waste time doubting because he knows he will act. He doesn't fear failure because he knows he will rise again. That is real power. Not cars, not money, not fame. Power is being able to look in the mirror and know I am on my own side. And once you eliminate self-betrayal, everything else falls into place. Work becomes consistent. Discipline becomes automatic. Success becomes inevitable. Because most men lose before the battle begins, and you will already have defeated the greatest enemy of all, yourself. So burn this truth into your soul. You cannot allow self-betrayal to live in you. The next time your mind whispers an excuse, the next time it tempts you with comfort, the next time it tells you to wait until tomorrow, you fight it. You crush it. You act anyway. Because loyalty to yourself is the foundation of greatness. Never betray yourself. Not once. Not ever. One of the strangest things about life is that success does not always belong to the smartest men. Some of the most successful people you see are not geniuses, not prodigies, not intellectual masters. Many of them are ordinary, sometimes even foolish by traditional standards. They make mistakes, they misunderstand things, they don't always operate with perfect logic. Yet somehow, they win. They rise above others, dominate their fields, and bend reality in their favor. Why? Because they possess something that intelligent men often lack: irrational self-belief. Think about it carefully. The intelligent man questions everything. He questions his own ability. He questions the timing. He questions whether he deserves the chance. He worries about failure. He analyzes endlessly, and he paralyzes himself with thought. He spends his life drawing maps, planning strategies, waiting for the right time. By the time he is ready, the opportunity has passed. He is smart enough to recognize the problems, but too doubtful to act with courage. His intelligence becomes a cage. Now compare him with the so-called fool. The fool doesn't spend hours dissecting outcomes. He doesn't sit wondering whether he has the qualifications or the right background. He doesn't hesitate over whether he might embarrass himself. He simply says, I will do it, and he moves forward. His actions are infused with certainty. And certainty, even when misplaced, is powerful. People follow conviction more than they follow logic. Opportunities gravitate towards those who carry themselves with unshakable faith. This is why irrational self-belief becomes a superpower. The man who believes in himself, even without evidence, already has an advantage over the man who doubts with every step. The world respects confidence. Women are drawn to certainty. Business partners trust decisive men. Audiences admire those who carry themselves with authority. Even if that man is wrong, his belief bends the world around him until eventually the world submits to his will. Irrational self-belief allows a man to attempt the impossible. It drives him to step into arenas where others are too scared to enter. It pushes him to challenge giants, to build businesses with nothing, to fight battles against overwhelming odds. He may not know exactly how he will succeed, but he never doubts that he will. And because he believes, his body and mind work together to find a way. Take the example of running a marathon. 26 miles of pain, exhaustion, and physical breakdown. For most people, their body gives up long before the finish line. Muscles cramp, lungs burn, energy disappears. But the difference between the man who quits and the man who finishes is not just training, it is belief. If a man believes with every fiber of his being that he can finish, he forces his body to obey. The body follows the mind, always. If the mind is weak, the body collapses. If the mind is unshakable, the body finds strength it never knew existed. The same principle applies everywhere. Making money, building relationships, overcoming adversity. Every area of life bends to belief. If you believe you are destined to win, you endure longer, push harder, and act bolder. If you believe you are destined to lose, you stop early, you shrink back, and you sabotage yourself. Many will call this arrogance. They will say, "Who are you to think you can succeed when so many fail? Who are you to believe you deserve more?" But arrogance in the right dose is essential. Without it, you will settle for mediocrity. Without it, you will convince yourself you belong in the middle. A man who sees himself as average will live an average life. A man who sees himself as destined for greatness will chase greatness until the world can no longer deny him. This is why sometimes so-called stupid men rise faster. They are blind to doubt. They don't waste energy imagining failure. They don't calculate every possible setback. They are too naive to see obstacles, so they simply run through them. Meanwhile, the clever man is frozen, scribbling plans and analyzing risks, while the fool is already halfway to victory. The goal is not to become foolish. The goal is to combine awareness with irrational faith, to use intelligence to prepare, but power it with the same blind certainty that the fool has. To look at challenges, understand them clearly, and still say, "I will win anyway." That is the mindset of champions. How do you build this belief? It starts with your inner dialogue. Every word you speak about yourself is programming. If you constantly say, "I can't, I'm not ready, it's too hard," you are hypnotizing yourself into weakness. Instead, you must flood your mind with affirmations of strength. I can, I will, I am chosen, I am unstoppable. Repeat them so often that they carve new pathways in your brain. Eventually, your body accepts them as truth. But belief alone is not enough. Belief must be matched with action, otherwise it is fantasy. Each action, no matter how small, reinforces belief. Each time you win, even in small ways, you prove to yourself that you are right to believe. That cycle becomes unbreakable. Belief fuels action. Action creates results. Results fuel more belief. Soon you are unstoppable. And above all, belief must be backed by loyalty to yourself. If you say you will do something and you fail, you destroy your own faith. If you break promises to yourself, your subconscious stops trusting you. That is why self-betrayal is fatal. The man who betrays himself cannot truly believe in himself. But the man who keeps his word, even in private, becomes unshakable. Irrational self-belief is not about ignoring reality. It is about bending reality. It is about refusing to accept the limits that others try to place on you. It is about staring at impossible odds and saying, "So what, I'll win anyway." It is about rejecting statistics, ignoring predictions, and trusting yourself more than you trust the world. History is filled with men who believed when no one else did. Explorers who sailed into unknown seas without maps. Inventors who risked ridicule for ideas the world called impossible. Warriors who stood outnumbered yet refused to retreat. These men were not always the most intelligent, but they were the most certain. Their belief itself became the source of their victory. This is the law you must live by. Stop waiting for proof before you believe. Believe first and let proof follow later. Act as if destiny already belongs to you. Tell yourself every single day, "I am destined to win, I am chosen, I am unstoppable." Say it when you wake, say it when you fail, say it until it is etched into your bones. Even when the world mocks, even when critics laugh, even when circumstances argue against you, hold the faith. Because irrational faith is the spark that ignites destiny. It is the difference between those who dream and those who achieve. It is the power that turns men into legends. There is one law of the universe that will never change. Raw action solves everything. The man who moves, the man who tries, the man who does something, he is always closer to victory than the man who waits, complains, or dreams without movement. It does not matter if the first attempt fails. It does not matter if the action looks foolish. What matters is that something was done, because the world bends to men of action, not to men of thought alone. Too many people waste their lives waiting for the perfect moment. They wait for the right opportunity, the right partner, the right market, the right mindset. They tell themselves stories. Once this condition is met, then I will act. But life does not work that way. The conditions will never be perfect. The timing will never be flawless. And while you wait, others move. By the time you finally convince yourself to step forward, the chance is gone. The bold man has already taken it. That is why I say action solves all. Even if you act imperfectly, you are at least creating momentum. The man who stands still cannot be guided. The man who moves can always adjust his path. You cannot steer a car that is parked. You cannot redirect a life that refuses to move. But once you start, once you take even the smallest step, the universe opens possibilities you could never have predicted. Let me give you a story. Imagine a village in the middle of a drought. The crops are dying. The rivers are dry. The people are desperate. One man stands up and says, "We must do something." He gathers the villagers and begins a rain dance. Now, does the dance itself create clouds? Number. Does stomping his feet and waving his arms directly force rain? Number. But his action has power because it signals intent. It signals faith. It signals desperation transformed into movement. Maybe the dance inspires others to join. Maybe it makes a neighboring tribe notice their struggle and bring water. Maybe the act itself sparks creativity, leading someone to dig deeper wells or build irrigation channels. Maybe by sheer coincidence, rain does arrive and the dance becomes legendary. The point is not whether the action directly caused rain. The point is that without action, nothing changes. The dance itself created energy, and energy creates solutions. This is the essence of life. Do your rain dance. When everything seems hopeless, when you feel powerless, when you don't know the next step, do something. Anything. Take a walk, write down ideas, help someone else, push yourself into motion, even if it looks disconnected from your problem. Movement itself generates momentum, and momentum invites opportunity. I once told a man who was upset about losing money in crypto, instead of sitting at home complaining, go buy groceries for an old woman. He laughed. He thought it was a joke, but I was serious. Why? Because the universe is not a cold machine of mathematics. It is alive with energy, with balance, with karma. Your actions echo in ways you cannot always see. When you do something positive, even if it seems unrelated, you shift your energy. You remind yourself that you have power. And that change in attitude attracts new opportunities. The lazy man does the opposite. He sits still. He complains. He waits. He refreshes his phone, scrolling endlessly, wishing for something to happen. But nothing happens because he is not moving. The universe does not reward statues. It rewards men who try. Even if your attempt is small, even if it is clumsy, it is still infinitely better than nothing. Think about how many people pray for success. They sit in their rooms, whispering to God, hoping for miracles. Yet their hands remain idle. They expect blessings to fall from the sky while they refuse to move their feet. That is not how God works. God rewards the man who shows intent through action. Prayer is not wrong, but prayer without effort is empty. Faith without works is dead. The rain dance matters because it proves that you are willing to try, even if you don't control the outcome. Look at history. Every breakthrough, every invention, every revolution came from men who acted when others hesitated. Do you think the Wright brothers knew for sure their plane would fly? Number. But they acted. Do you think explorers sailing across oceans knew exactly what was on the other side? Number. But they acted. Do you think entrepreneurs launching companies in garages had guarantees of success? Number. But they acted. And because they acted, they discovered truths the dreamers never found. This is why inaction is worse than failure. If you try and fail, you learn. If you wait and never try, you gain nothing. Failure is tuition. Waiting is wasted life. The man who fails 10 times is 10 lessons wiser. The man who waits 10 years is 10 years older with nothing gained. Another reason action is supreme, it destroys fear. Fear grows in stillness. When you sit and imagine outcomes, when you allow your mind to loop around possible disasters, fear multiplies. But the moment you act, fear shrinks. Action pulls you into the present. Action silences the voices of doubt. You cannot be paralyzed when you are in motion. That is why soldiers are trained to move under fire. Standing still is death. Movement creates survival. Do you want respect? Act. Do you want wealth? Act. Do you want strength? Act. The formula never changes. The man who acts may fail, but he is always stronger than the man who hesitates. And when you act again and again, when you rain dance every day without pause, the universe has no choice but to bend eventually. Persistence beats resistance. Raw effort bends the world. You may not always see the connection between your action and the result, but that is not your job. Your job is to act. The results will come through strange pathways you could not predict. You buy groceries for a stranger today, and tomorrow you meet someone who changes your career. You take a risk on a small project today, and 10 years later, that skill saves your family. You go to the gym today, and in the future, that discipline becomes the foundation of your empire. The link is not always visible, but it is always there. So when the world feels impossible, when your dreams feel too far, when everything seems stacked against you, dance, act, move, refuse to stand still. The man who acts can be guided by fate, by God, by luck, by momentum. The man who refuses to act is already lost. And here is the deeper truth. Action itself is victory. Even if you fail, you prove to yourself that you are a man of movement. You build identity. You become the kind of person who tries. And that identity is priceless, because once you believe you are a man of action, your entire life changes. Discipline becomes natural, courage becomes default, confidence becomes permanent. Every empire is built on action. Every victory is carved by movement. Every success story begins with someone who refused to wait for permission. So burn this rule into your mind. Raw action solves everything. If there is one trait that separates the winners from the losers, one trait that decides who rises and who stays broken, it is not talent, it is not luck, it is not even intelligence, it is perseverance. The ability to keep going when every part of you wants to stop. The refusal to quit, even when the world screams that quitting makes sense. The decision to push forward through pain, through exhaustion, through humiliation, through setbacks, through failures. That is what builds empires and creates legends. Effort and perseverance are the muscles of the soul. Just like biceps grow when you lift weights, your perseverance grows when you push through resistance. Every time you endure instead of collapsing, every time you continue when others quit, every time you stay focused when distraction tempts you, you strengthen that muscle. And once it is strong, you become unstoppable. Most people do not understand this. They think failure is final. They think one rejection, one loss, one mistake is the end of the road. That is why they quit so easily. But winners know the truth. Every setback is simply a test. Every challenge is an exam you must pass to prove you are worthy of success. Perseverance is the answer key. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be flawless. You just need to outlast. Think about history. The greatest inventors did not succeed on their first attempt. Edison tried thousands of times before creating the light bulb. Each failure taught him something. Each setback refined his knowledge. If he had quit after the first 100 attempts, the world would be darker. It was perseverance that brought light. Look at warriors, fighters, champions. A fighter may be knocked down in the ring, but the fight isn't over until he refuses to stand up. The crowd does not remember how many times he fell. They remember if he rose again. Perseverance writes legacy. And it is the same in business, in relationships, in every pursuit. The first attempt often fails. The first deal collapses. The first pitch is rejected. The first product flops. But the man who perseveres, who learns, who tries again and again, eventually breaks through. Because the world cannot resist a man who refuses to stop. Here is a law. If you try your absolute best, failure is nearly impossible. People repeat the phrase, it's okay to lose if you tried your best. But here is the secret. They say it because almost no one truly tries their best. When you give 100% of yourself, when you pour every ounce of energy into a mission, success becomes almost guaranteed. The only things that can stop you are freak accidents or the will of God. And if God himself says no, you can accept it. But most people never even reach the point of testing God's will because they quit long before they reach their limit. Trying your best is a muscle too. The more you push, the more you get used to giving full effort. At first it feels uncomfortable, even unnatural. But eventually effort becomes your identity. You stop asking, do I feel like it? You simply act. Perseverance becomes your nature. Understand this. Perseverance is not glamorous. It is not shiny. It is not dramatic. It is waking up every day and doing the work, even when you are tired, even when you are discouraged, even when nobody is clapping. It is consistency in the shadows before you earn applause in the light. The man who can persevere when no one is watching will eventually shine when everyone is watching. Think about the gym. You may not hit a personal record every day, but if you show up, if you lift, if you strain, you grow. Even on the days you fail to add weight, your muscles still strengthen from the effort. Life works the same way. You may not win every battle, but by persevering, you grow stronger for the next one. The losers of life are not those who fail, they are those who quit. Quitting is the only true failure. If you are still fighting, you have not lost. If you are still moving, you have not been defeated. Perseverance guarantees eventual victory because the world has no defense against a man who refuses to leave. Perseverance also transforms your identity. When you push through hardship, you begin to see yourself differently. You no longer see yourself as fragile. You no longer view yourself as weak. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to say, no matter what happens, I will not stop. That identity is priceless because it fuels confidence. And confidence attracts respect, opportunity, and power. Let me give you a harsh truth. Life will break you. It will test you. It will throw obstacles in your path. It will try to humiliate you. That is guaranteed. But life cannot defeat the man who perseveres. It can wound him. It can delay him. It can exhaust him. But it cannot break him. He bends, but he never snaps. And in the end, he outlasts everything. Winners have one habit in common. They do not stop. They do not negotiate with their goals. They do not bargain with their dreams. They do not ask for easier circumstances. They simply endure until endurance itself brings victory. Consider this, the mountain does not move for the man who asks politely. The mountain moves for the man who keeps climbing no matter how many times he slips. The universe rewards those who refuse to quit. It has no choice, because time itself bends to perseverance. The man who outlasts time becomes immortal in his achievements. Most people live in cycles of effort and retreat. They work hard for a few days, then collapse into laziness. They get excited about a project, then abandon it when it gets difficult. They start journeys with passion, but quit halfway. This is why mediocrity rules the world. Perseverance is rare, consistency is scarce. Everyone wants results, but few are willing to suffer long enough to earn them. You want to be rare? Develop perseverance. Train yourself to keep moving when everything in you screams to stop. Build the habit of finishing what you start. Create the identity of a man who does not quit. Once that identity is yours, the world will eventually bow. And here is another truth. Perseverance itself creates luck. People think luck is random, but luck is the residue of effort. The longer you stay in the game, the more opportunities you encounter. The man who perseveres eventually meets the right person, finds the right chance, stumbles upon the right moment. Quitting removes you from the possibility of luck. Perseverance keeps you in the arena long enough for luck to notice you. Even when you lose, perseverance turns loss into growth. Failure is no longer bitter because you know you gave everything. You walk away without regret, knowing you became stronger. That strength compounds, preparing you for the next fight. Eventually, the fight you once thought impossible becomes easy. Perseverance changes your perspective on difficulty. What once felt unbearable becomes normal. What once terrified you becomes routine. In this way, perseverance is freedom. It frees you from fear. It frees you from regret. It frees you from weakness, because no matter what happens, you know you will keep going. That certainty makes you dangerous. That certainty makes you powerful. That certainty makes you unstoppable. So when life strikes you down, when failure whispers in your ear, when exhaustion tries to seduce you into quitting, remember this: raw effort and perseverance are your weapons. Use them relentlessly. Use them without hesitation, because they guarantee that in the long run, you will win. Never quit. Never surrender. Persevere until perseverance itself bends reality. There is one silent currency that separates men into categories: the amount of stress they can handle without breaking. It is not money, it is not talent, it is not IQ, it is stress tolerance. The man who can carry more weight on his shoulders, the man who can endure pressure without collapsing, the man who can remain calm in storms, that man will always rise above the rest. Because life is stress. Success is stress. Responsibility is stress. The question is never will you face stress. The question is how much can you carry before you collapse. Most men crumble under the slightest pressure. One rejection, one insult, one obstacle, and they break down. They lose their focus, they lose their temper, they lose their composure. They become emotional wrecks. They look for escape in alcohol, in drugs, in distractions, in endless entertainment. They run from stress instead of mastering it. And because of that, they never grow. But the man who embraces stress, the man who takes it as a challenge instead of a curse, is the man who becomes resilient. Resilience is forged in fire. It is not built in comfort. It is not born in luxury. It is born when you are pushed beyond your limits and still refuse to surrender. Stress is the gym of the soul, and resilience is the muscle it builds. The truth is that your ability to succeed is directly linked to your capacity for stress. The more problems you can handle, the more valuable you become. A man who collapses under small problems will never be trusted with big opportunities. But the man who carries enormous burdens without complaint becomes indispensable. He becomes the leader, the one others turn to when chaos erupts. Think about business. Every big deal involves stress. Deadlines, negotiations, risks, uncertainty, these are all stress. If you break under it, you lose. If you thrive under it, you win. Think about relationships. Leading a family, protecting them, guiding them, providing for them, all of it is stress. If you avoid it, your family suffers. If you embrace it, your family flourishes. Think about leadership. Commanding men, making decisions that affect lives, facing criticism that is stress. Leaders are leaders because they can carry more stress than the average man. The world is full of men who want power but cannot handle the stress that comes with it. They want the throne but cannot carry the crown. They want the rewards but not the weight. They dream of freedom but collapse when tested. That is why they remain average. Because power and stress are inseparable. Understand this, stress is not your enemy. Stress is your training partner. It is the resistance that makes you stronger. Every time you face stress and endure, you build resilience. Every time you refuse to break, you become tougher. Resilience compounds. It stacks on itself. The man who once panicked under small stress eventually laughs at it. The man who once felt crushed by minor problems eventually carries mountains. But resilience alone is not enough. There is another trait even rarer: indefatigability. The refusal to tire, the refusal to give up, the ability to keep moving forward no matter how long the battle drags on. Indefatigability is not simply perseverance for one day. It is perseverance for a lifetime. It is the decision to never run out of fuel, to never quit the fight, to never allow exhaustion to dictate your destiny. Imagine two men in a war. One is skilled, one is strong, one is intelligent, but he tires after a week. The other is relentless. He never stops, he never quits, he keeps advancing even after months. Who wins? The indefatigable man. Because no matter how skilled or talented his opponent, eventually exhaustion breaks him. Time is the ally of the man who never stops. This is how you must approach life. Be the man who cannot be fatigued. Be the man who keeps going when others fall. Outlast them, outwork them, outendure them. If you can do this, you cannot be defeated. You may lose battles, but you will win wars. Stress and indefatigability go hand in hand. Stress is the weight, indefatigability is the endurance. Together, they make you unstoppable. The man who can carry heavy burdens and carry them forever will always dominate. So how do you train resilience? You train it by facing stress intentionally. Stop avoiding discomfort. Put yourself in situations where you are tested. Take on challenges that scare you. Expose yourself to difficulty. Each time you endure, your capacity expands. Soon, what once crushed you becomes effortless. And how do you train indefatigability? By eliminating the option of quitting. Remove it from your vocabulary. Erase it from your identity. Quitting is not allowed. You either win or you die trying. Once this is your mindset, fatigue loses its power. Because when you have no exit, you find energy you did not know existed. The body follows the mind, and the mind can command the body to go on forever. Life will attack you with stress. That is inevitable. But your reaction is your choice. You can panic, you can collapse, you can complain, or you can smile and say, good, more weight for me to carry. That is the mindset of resilience. That is the mindset of kings. Critics will always appear. They will insult you, slander you, attack your name, attempt to destroy your reputation. This too is stress. Most men cry under it. They beg for approval. They hide. But the resilient man grows stronger from criticism. He uses hate as fuel. He learns to carry the weight of attacks without breaking. That is why public figures, leaders, warriors, those who dare to stand out must have resilience far beyond the average man. And when the enemy realizes you cannot be fatigued, when they realize you cannot be broken, when they realize you thrive under stress, they begin to fear you. Because there is no strategy against a man who will not stop. There is no plan that can defeat indefatigability. Time itself becomes your ally, and your enemies collapse before you do. So build resilience, build indefatigability, embrace stress, train under weight, laugh at pressure, and when exhaustion whispers in your ear, respond with action. Move forward anyway. Because that is the law of winners. Stress fuels them, resilience protects them, and indefatigability makes them immortal. Never fear stress. Never quit under pressure. Be the man who carries mountains and never tires. That man will always rule the world. Every man alive today is at war, whether he realizes it or not. The battleground is not always physical. It is not fought with swords, guns, or bombs. The modern battlefield is psychological. The war is for your mind, and the enemy is given their system a name, the Matrix. The Matrix is not science fiction. It is not just a film you watch and forget. It is the system of control that governs your life. It is the invisible prison that shapes your thoughts, your beliefs, your habits, your desires, and even your sense of reality. It does not lock your body in chains. It locks your mind in illusions. And if you do not wake up, you will spend your entire life serving it, feeding it, obeying it, never realizing that you were a slave. What is the Matrix? It is the collection of institutions, media outlets, governments, corporations, and cultural forces that all align to make you obedient. It tells you what to believe, what to fear, what to chase, and what to ignore. It conditions you from birth to accept mediocrity, to embrace weakness, to settle for slavery disguised as comfort. Look around. They tell you to go to school, sit quietly, memorize useless facts, get good grades, and believe that this will lead to a good life. You are taught obedience, not creativity. Compliance, not courage. You are punished for questioning authority and rewarded for repeating dogma. Then you are pushed into college, told to take on massive debt, all so you can qualify for a job where you will sell your time for money, chained to a desk, begging for promotions, paying taxes that fund a system designed to keep you poor. That is the Matrix. And if you dare to step outside of it, if you reject their rules, if you refuse to kneel, if you start thinking for yourself, they attack you. They cancel you, they smear you, they mock you, they attempt to destroy your reputation, your income, even your freedom. Because the system cannot tolerate free men. Free men are dangerous. Free men cannot be controlled. Free men inspire others to wake up, and once enough men wake up, the Matrix collapses. That is why mental warfare is so crucial. The Matrix does not need to kill you physically. It needs only to break your mind. Depression, anxiety, weakness, addiction, distraction, these are its weapons. Social media, endless entertainment, pornography, processed food, fake news, all of these are tools designed to keep you docile, to sap your energy, to kill your ambition. If you spend your life glued to screens, hypnotized by cheap dopamine, arguing about nonsense, drowning in comfort, then the Matrix has already won. You do not need chains when your mind is enslaved. But here is the truth. You can fight back. You can win the war for your mind. The first step is awareness. You must see the prison before you can break free of it. You must look at your life honestly and ask, are these my thoughts or are they programmed? Do I truly want what I am chasing, or was I conditioned to want it? Do I believe this because I researched it, or because it was repeated to me 1,000 times by schools, by media, by influencers paid to manipulate me? Awareness is the first act of rebellion. Once you are aware, the second step is control. You must seize control of your own mind. That means rejecting the endless distractions designed to consume you. Limit the cheap dopamine. Stop wasting hours scrolling. Stop consuming meaningless content. Stop filling your brain with garbage. Instead, feed your mind with strength. Read, learn, train, meditate, reflect, build. Every input is programming. Choose the programming that builds a warrior, not a slave. The third step is resistance. This is where the war becomes real. The Matrix wants conformity. It wants men who obey, who kneel, who comply. You must refuse. That does not mean reckless rebellion. It means strategic independence. Build your own income so you are not enslaved to their jobs. Build your body so you are not enslaved to their pharmaceutical industry. Build your community so you are not enslaved to their propaganda. Build your spirit so you are not enslaved to despair. Resistance is living free in a system designed to enslave. But make no mistake, this war is not easy. The Matrix does not give up its slaves willingly. When you resist, you will be tested. People will mock you. Friends will abandon you. Family may not understand you. Enemies will attack you. The media will lie about you. Governments may target you. But all of that is proof that you are free. If you were still a slave, nobody would care. Resistance invites opposition, and opposition proves you are dangerous to the system. You must decide now. Do you want to live safe and enslaved, or dangerous and free? Safe men obey. Dangerous men think. Safe men follow orders. Dangerous men create their own path. Safe men spend their lives as workhorses. Dangerous men live as kings. The Matrix will always prefer you safe, compliant, weak, distracted, controlled. Your duty is to become the opposite. Remember, this is mental warfare. You cannot allow your mind to betray you. That means no excuses, no self-pity, no comfort. Weakness is collaboration with the enemy. Every time you choose laziness, the Matrix wins. Every time you waste a day, the Matrix wins. Every time you let fear stop you, the Matrix wins. And every time you push forward, every time you train, every time you work, every time you fight, you win. This war has no neutral ground. You are either resisting or complying. You are either free or enslaved. There is no middle. The Matrix wants you docile, predictable, and broken. You must be the opposite. Dangerous, unpredictable, and unbreakable. The ultimate weapon in mental warfare is truth. Speak it, live it, embody it. Do not censor yourself to please the system. Do not lie to protect their illusions. Truth is the sword that cuts through the Matrix. That is why they fear men who speak honestly. That is why they silence voices that refuse to conform. Because truth is contagious. One free mind inspires others. And when enough men see the truth, the entire system falls apart. So speak truth. Even if your voice shakes, even if you stand alone, even if they call you crazy, arrogant, delusional, speak truth anyway. Because truth creates cracks in the prison walls. And through those cracks, light enters. And once light enters, darkness cannot survive. The war for your mind will never end. Every day the system will try to pull you back. Every day you will be tempted by comfort, by distraction, by weakness. Every day you must choose freedom again. Freedom is not a one-time decision. It is a daily battle. You fight it every morning when you wake up, every time you choose discipline over laziness, every time you choose strength over weakness, every time you choose truth over lies. Win those small battles, and you will win the war. Lose them, and the Matrix will reclaim you. So ask yourself, are you awake, or are you still asleep? Are you a fighter, or are you still a slave? The choice is yours, but the consequences are eternal. Wake up, resist, fight, because the war is here, and neutrality is not an option. Wealth is not just about money. It is about freedom. It is about control. It is about the ability to live life on your terms instead of someone else's. The Matrix wants you broke, because broke men are easy to control. Broke men obey. Broke men beg. Broke men accept rules they hate. jobs they despise, and conditions that humiliate them. A broke man cannot say no. He cannot walk away. He cannot resist. That is why the system keeps you chasing crumbs. But when you build wealth, you gain power. And with power comes the ability to break free. Understand this clearly. Poverty is slavery. You can decorate it, excuse it, justify it, but it is still slavery. The man who cannot afford to walk away from a toxic job is a slave. The man who cannot afford to say no to corrupt leaders is a slave. The man who cannot afford to take risks, to speak truth, to protect his family is a slave. The world tells you that money is evil. That is a lie. Money is neutral. It is a tool. In the hands of the weak, it buys distractions. In the hands of the strong, it buys freedom. Look around you. The rich live by different rules. They own their time, they own their assets, they control their environment, they cannot be easily silenced, manipulated, or controlled. Even governments tread carefully around those with immense wealth. Why? Because money is power. You may not like it, but it is the truth. The rich set the rules, the poor obey them. That is why, if you truly want to break free from the matrix, you must master wealth. But wealth is not just about numbers in a bank account. True wealth is multidimensional. It includes financial independence, yes, but also health, relationships, knowledge, and spiritual grounding. A billionaire who is obese, depressed, and surrounded by snakes is not truly wealthy. A man with control over his time, his body, his mind, his money, and his destiny, that is true wealth. So, how do you build wealth in a world designed to keep you poor? First, you must change your beliefs about money. The matrix programs you to think small. It tells you to be satisfied with a salary, to spend recklessly on liabilities, to drown in debt. It glamorizes consumerism and ridicules discipline. You are told to buy cars you cannot afford, to swipe credit cards you cannot pay, to spend decades trapped in mortgages, to waste your income chasing lifestyles designed by corporations. All of it keeps you chained. Break that chain by seeing money for what it is, a soldier that works for you. Every dollar you save and invest is a worker building your army. Every dollar you waste is a soldier you killed. The rich grow their armies. The poor slaughter theirs. If you want to break free, stop being careless with your soldiers. Protect them, multiply them, deploy them wisely. Second, you must learn to create value. Money flows to value. If you provide little value, you receive little money. If you provide massive value, you receive massive money. Stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like a producer. What problems can you solve? What skills can you master? What needs can you meet? The man who solves problems owns the wealth. The man who only consumes is owned by the wealthy. Third, you must embrace risk. Safety is the greatest illusion. The job you think is safe can disappear tomorrow. The pension you think is guaranteed can vanish. Inflation eats your savings silently every year. Playing safe is actually the most dangerous move. The rich take calculated risks. They invest. They build businesses. They seize opportunities. They understand that fortune favors the bold. If you want freedom, you must take risks, not reckless risks, but bold, calculated ones. And fourth, you must master discipline. Wealth is not built in chaos. It is built in order. Budget your money. Invest consistently. Avoid debt traps. Delay gratification. While others waste on parties, gadgets, and empty entertainment, you build assets. While others show off fake wealth on social media, you create real wealth in silence. Discipline now creates freedom later. But wealth alone is not enough. You must also build power. Power is the ability to influence outcomes, to bend circumstances, to protect yourself and those you love. Power comes from more than money. It comes from reputation, from network, from strength, from knowledge, from resilience. A rich man without power is still vulnerable. A powerful man without wealth is still limited. But a man who has both wealth and power is untouchable. Consider reputation. The Matrix tries to destroy reputations because reputation is influence. A man respected by millions cannot be easily controlled. That is why the system attacks anyone who dares to speak truth. Guard your reputation fiercely. Build it on integrity, competence, and results. Power flows to men whose names command respect. Consider your network. Alone, you are limited. Surrounded by strong allies, you are limitless. Wealthy, powerful men do not move alone. They build tribes, brotherhoods, alliances. They support each other, protect each other, open doors for each other. If you want to break free, build your network of strong men who share your vision. Consider strength. A man who cannot defend himself is never truly free. Physical power matters. Train your body. Stay ready. Weak men are controlled by fear of stronger men. Do not be weak. When you are strong, you walk differently. You command differently. You live differently. And consider knowledge. Power without knowledge is reckless. Wealth without knowledge is fleeting. You must constantly learn about business, history, psychology, strategy. Knowledge sharpens your power, expands your wealth, and fortifies your freedom. When you combine wealth and power, you break free. The system cannot control you because you no longer need it. You are no longer dependent on their jobs, their banks, their narratives. You can live where you choose, say what you believe, and build as you desire. That is true freedom. But freedom is not given, it is earned. It requires sacrifice, risk, discipline, effort. Most men will never taste it because they prefer comfort. They prefer the illusion of safety over the reality of freedom. They would rather be controlled and entertained than free and responsible. That is why freedom is rare. That is why wealth and power are rare. But for the man who dares, for the man who perseveres, for the man who builds, freedom is possible.